And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hey everybody, welcome back to your RBLR Rays show. I'm Ben, with me is Zach. Good morning, Zach. How's it going?
Good morning, Ben. It is going well over here. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I just realized my skin looks pretty good. I
Yeah.
got my run in this morning. Life is
Solid.
good. Yeah, good
Can't
stuff.
complain.
Yeah, we got the Carl Crawford Rays Hall of Fame induction ceremony today. So the start
Yes.
time is supposed to be 4:10, but who knows when that'll get rolling. Thankfully, Garrett Cole's not pitching tonight because they'd have to bring out like a Zamboni or something to the dugout to get all of his tears out of there. So
Oh, yeah.
he hates delayed starts, but he pitched really well last night. So I have to take
He
some
did.
kind of dig at him to make myself feel better.
Yeah, we should have figured out a way to move this celebration to like yesterday, just at the last minute, just scoot everything back one day just to get that effect.
Yeah, I mean he's probably gonna win the Cy Young, and whenever he goes out, like you're probably gonna lose if you're facing him. He'll occasionally, wet the bed, but no, he was solid. And the Rays kind of saw that, and they're like, yeah, after Eflin, we're like, yeah, Trevor Kelly's fine, like he can just come in and we'll punt it. So they did, and I understand that. So hopefully they can go win. I think they're gonna definitely put their more higher leverage arms in games today and tomorrow, because the game yesterday was almost it was pretty unwinnable, despite the close score when Eflin was still in.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Yankees don't do a whole lot well, but what they do well is their bullpen. So if you look at a situation where you're losing a game and you're going into the later innings, Cole's giving you 7. You got 2 innings left against their bullpen, which is generally their strength. Doesn't really make sense to burn your high leverage arms. When you're going to have 2 more games that you could win, and especially considering that you kind of are I think you're kind of in a holding pattern, just trying to stay about 1 to 2-ish games back of Baltimore until we play them. Because to me, I've gotten to the point where this division is going to come down to that 4-game series in Baltimore.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's not even, I don't think that's a hot take. Like, what's going to happen is we're going to be 1 to 2-ish games back when we go to Baltimore. Whatever happens in Baltimore, and that's the division. So the Rays, all they need to do is just keep doing what they're doing, stay 2, 3-ish games back, and then see what happens when they get to Baltimore. And when you look at the Rays' decision last night to not burn their high leverage arms, they're concerned about maintaining those arms for those runs. Whereas you look at Baltimore, we've been talking about it all year long, and I'm not happy about it. It doesn't give me no joy to say this, but I mean, Batista, he's getting second opinions today on what's wrong with his arm. Like, we said it all year long that if you put a lot of stress on high intensity arms, is there any arm that's higher intensity than Felix Bautista's in baseball? Like, dude's blowing 102 every time he's out there. He's amazing, but they've used him so much. And I mean, if you lose him down the stretch, you got to think that's going to impact their win loss. I hope he's fine for the sake of baseball. I hope he's fine and that he just needs a week or 2 off. But even with that, like if he misses a week or 2, does that help the Rays close the gap a little bit? All these decisions have reasons. They're not just, they don't want to just lose games because they just don't care. They're making decisions because they're trying to win the big game at the end of the season. That's the goal that they're pushing towards. And the decisions that they're making are like, there may be some managers where you may not feel confident saying that they're making decisions based on wanting to win a World Series and how to get there. But I feel confident in saying that Cash is making decisions with the thought of the World Series in mind the whole season long.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it'd be cool to win, to set like the all-time record in wins for a regular season, whatever. It'd be cool to, have all these accomplishments. But if you win like 95, sometimes 90 games, you're into the playoffs. Be as healthy as you can be and just see what happens. Like there's really there's no like hard deadline or hard like number you have to hit, but you want to be healthy going into the playoffs. And if Felix Bautista's out, I think he was ranked 17th in F4 among all pitchers, including starters.
Yeah.
So like, and he's pitched what, like 60 something innings? Let me see. 61
lot.
innings, and he's
Yeah.
got, almost twice as much F4 as the next closest guy as a reliever. Like, that's a huge part of your team. He's basically automatic. He was going for, multiple up downs every once in a while. So he would eat like not just that final 3 outs, but he would get like the last 4, 5, 6 outs of a game. Uh, there's no trade deadline anymore. Like, that's over. So you can't go out and grab another high leverage arm. I hope he's okay, because those games when he pitches, it's really fun to watch him.
Yeah.
I've made an effort to go to those games in person when I'm like, okay, Bautista hasn't thrown in a while. I'm going to try to see this game because he's so insane to watch in real life. Yeah, hopefully he's okay. But Baltimore kind of needed to, run him and Cano almost every day to win games, because who else is in their bullpen? Who else is in their rotation that they can trust?
Yeah.
I think it'll be less impactful if and when they make it to the playoffs, but for the rest of the regular season, they're going to be trying to piece things together, and that's definitely the chance for the Rays to strike. So as long as they're within, like, 2-3 games, it's a 4-game series, so just be in striking distance when you head into Baltimore, and give yourself a chance to win.
Yeah, I mean, going back to discussing the, winning in the regular season, how many teams that have had the best record have won the World Series, or really the championship in any sport? When you look at, like, throughout history, those teams that have the best record, the number of those teams that have actually won the championship of their respective league is not high. Think about the Warriors a couple years ago; they won all those games. You think about the Patriots a couple years ago, or as longer than that, it was about a couple decades ago, and they went undefeated. What happened to them? So winning a bunch of games in the regular season does not necessarily mean that you're going to result in a championship. So at the end of the day, you just want to be as healthy as you can be when you go into the postseason. Have things set up to where you can succeed. Have your rotation set up to where you can succeed. Have your couple high leverage guys, and try to have a hot offense. And the Rays have basically been doing that. So I don't love, I want to win every single game. So it's not my favorite decision ever, but I understand it and I support it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting, and the Rays do have this stretch of 17 games in 17 days to kick off September. So that's going to be, a real tough point. Not a tough point, but it'll be a nice checkpoint, a challenge for the team.
Yeah.
But once they make it through that, the rest of the schedule is they'll kind of coast. But Baltimore is at the tail end of that 17 game and 17 day stretch. So that's going to be rosters expand in September. So I don't think workload is going to be an issue, but the travel schedule, you're going between 3 different time zones in that stretch, no days off. It'll be interesting. So definitely excited to get to that point of the season, but we still had a pretty good week this week, taking care of business against the Rockies. Like we said, we dropped the first of 3 to the Yankees, but the bullpen and all that, everything's kind of positioned to at least not punt these next 2 games. Hopefully that would be nice. And yeah, I mean, what else was important or big from this week?
I mean, I think on it, like, it's getting a sweep. I think it was a big deal. We hadn't gotten one in a little while. We've been winning. We've won like a lot of series in a row. Let's see, a good few series in a row we've won. So that's exciting. But getting a series sweep is just nice. It feels nice. It feels like what you should do against a Rockies team that is just not very good. And we did it in very fun fashion. A couple of the nights coming back and scoring late walk-offs. It was a fun couple games against the Rockies. It felt like a couple get right games. Not that we were already getting right, but those were kind of like the finishing touches on getting right. So it was just fun. It felt like Rays baseball. It felt like the good offense, the good pitching, the good bullpen. It kind of felt like Rays baseball, and I think we're just going to see more of that in this series against the Yankees, because they've only got one Garrett Cole. So there's no more Garrett Coles in the Yankees rotation to send back out there. So I think we're going to see a lot more of what we saw against the Rockies in these last 2 games against the Yankees.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a fun series. It was fun yesterday though. Like, I love a pitching duel.
Yeah.
I know it kind of got blown open once they decided to punt that game, and yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think The Yankees, I think they're better than their record indicates, but they're still not a very good team. So you definitely want to get the win in the series, especially against a division opponent.
Yeah.
So take care of the games in your division. I think next up they head to Miami. They've got an off day on I think Monday. They head to Miami for a 2-game series. That one, at least split the series. Like a loss isn't the end of the world, but you got that, and then I think I'm going off memory here. I think that they have another off day Thursday, and then they begin like their crazy stretch. I think they head out to Cleveland. So
They do go to
um,
Cleveland. They go to
yeah,
Cleveland, then Boston. So they go to Cleveland, come back home for Boston and Seattle. Then they go to Minnesota and Baltimore.
yeah, that's gonna be fun. The Seattle stuff. Well, they're playing I think Boston and Seattle at home, right?
They are, yes.
Yeah, so those are I mean, the Boston a little important, but it does kind of have playoff implications because the Red Sox are still like pushing a little bit for that wild card
They're still
spot.
fighting. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't expect them to get that. But Seattle definitely is like
Yeah.
they're a fringe playoff team and they've been hot lately, so that's going to be important. Just some pretty important games coming up. Not the end of the world, but that Baltimore series is definitely like I don't think we will see unless like something really crazy, good or bad happens. I don't think we're going to see a more important series for the rest of the year. So that's definitely one I'm really excited to tune into.
Yeah, I mean, once you get done with the Baltimore series, it's the Angels, the Blue Jays, Boston for 2, and then the Blue Jays again. The Blue Jays have they've imploded. They're done.
Yeah.
I think I'm comfortable saying they're done. The Angels are super done, and Boston's still fighting a little bit. But I mean, I think the Angels at this point, that is a rough scene. You want to talk about a rough scene in Major League Baseball? I mean, Trout's back on the IL. Shohei is might need Tommy John. I mean, that's about as bad as it gets. And that's probably when you want to talk about off-season topics. I mean, there's not going to be any bigger one than what is going to happen with Shohei Ohtani. What does his free agency look like? What does it change? Who's going to try to go after him because he's going to be, whether you like it or not, he's going to be worth less than he was before. Now that he's got another injury on the arm, like how does that affect his free agency? His bat is still worth whatever money you want to give him because he's still a top 2-3 bat in baseball. So that I don't think that changes. But yeah, is he still going to get $600 million? Probably not. I mean, that's super interesting. But my thing that I'm the most sad about is that we didn't get to see him pitch against the Rays this year. That really makes me upset. I was sad when he didn't pitch when we just saw them, and now we're not gonna get to see him. So that makes me really sad because I love watching him play. But yeah, I mean, I think the division comes down to that Baltimore series, and really after that, it's just going to be about kind of getting guys ready for the postseason at that point. Not that I'm not coasting. I still want to go, be winning games going into the postseason, but definitely looking to make sure the rotation's ready, the bullpen is ready. We're getting guys back from injury, getting guys plate appearances as they need to kind of get comfortable. That becomes the focus once the Baltimore series is over, I think.
Yeah, winning won't be a priority once you kind of like know you're basically in. The priority is going to be lining up the pitching, making sure all the bats have their reps in and they're comfortable. It kind of gets into like almost spring training mode, but just a little bit more high leverage, I guess.
Yeah.
But their expanded rosters will help. So definitely excited about that. I like seeing the guys come up, and I don't really think there are going to be any crazy additions. So the rosters will expand from 26 to 28. You can only carry a maximum of 14 pitchers. So you basically add one bat and one arm when the rosters expand. Yeah, I mean, that's going to happen a week from now. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that, but I don't think we're really going to see any surprises there.
No, I think you're probably looking. I mean, I would be surprised if Mead does not come back up. I think that's the obvious one is Mead coming back up. I don't know what they're going to do with Walls as far as when he's ready to come back. If it was me, I would send Brujan back down and bring Walls in. I really don't. That's the one thing that they've done this week that I kind of didn't understand. I don't really get sending down Mead for Brujan. I don't I don't really get it. I don't. I understand what Cash said, and then he said that they're going to be facing a lot of right-handed
Yeah.
pitchers, and they don't think Mead's going to get a lot of at bats. I understand that, but my response would be, well, if he's going to be, I mean, my thought would be that Mead is eventually going to be at least a semi everyday guy. So I don't understand why we wouldn't want to give him some at bats against guys that he's going to be facing at some point anyway. He's going to be facing right-handers at some point anyway. And I don't know that Mead versus righties is really that much better than Brujan versus righties. Like, is that really an improvement? And maybe that's not the trade-off in the roster, like in the batting order. But like, I'm not really interested in seeing Mead or Brujan take any at bats for Mead at right now. I understand the versatility part of it too, but I mean, we saw that Paredes can play shortstop if you absolutely have to. He can do it. It was fine. It wasn't. I don't want to see it every day, but it can be done if you need to spell Basabe for a day. But I don't know. I just kind of don't get that one, and I understand the reason that Cash gave, but I just kind of I don't know. I just don't get that one.
Yeah, I mean it's because of the playing time. Like if he rides the bench in the majors, he's not going to develop. So they send him to Durham, let him develop. You can't I mean, you technically could run with Basabe as the shortstop and Paredes as the backup, but that's not. He had like 3 balls hit to him in that Rockies game. They chose that matchup for a reason. A lot of lefties trying to pull the ball. He really didn't get much exposure. So it makes sense to have Brujan up there as like the defensive replacement. I don't think he's going to take at bats from Mead because Brujan's probably not going to get many at bats anyways. Like he's pinch runner, defensive sub. I don't think Mead will come back up because they have said that Walls is likely to return and they're targeting a September 1st return date. So he's basically the bat September call up, and the pitching September call up is Kevin Kelly, who is also likely to be ready for September 1st. So that'll be the bat in the arm that they add. And I think we might see, like, just based on the option situation with Brujan, I think it's most likely going to be like Brujan versus Basabe for the backup shortstop role, or at least like some kind of timeshare with Walls, because Walls he's the best fielding shortstop on the 40 man essentially. Because of what the restricted list or whatever that means for the other shortstop the Rays have had. So
yeah. So anyway, my comment with that is like, this is probably prisoner of the moment and not fair. But Brujan has shown me more in the week and a half that Basabe has shown me more in the week and a half that he's been up offensively than I've seen from Brujan basically the entire time that he's been part of the Rays. Like, I mean, Brujan will occasionally do some nice things, but like I've seen some really impressive stuff from Basabe, and I'm sure if he gets exposed more, it'll fall off a little bit. But like, I just don't see the value in Brujan being up because I feel like there's more value in having another bat in Mead available than in having another defensive replacement, because I mean, I don't know that you really need more than 2 shortstops, and you have plenty of options for third base and second base. So I personally don't get it. I would much rather see Mead up there, and knowing that we have defensive aces at a lot of other positions, and I'm pretty comfortable with Basabe playing short, and obviously I'm comfortable with Walls playing short. I mean, I don't know. And I understand the reasoning and wanting to have that flexibility defensively and have the base. I mean, obviously Mead's not lighting the world on fire with his base running either. And, I don't know. I just kind of, personally, I'd rather see Mead up than Brujan. That's just my personal preference.
Right. So Mead as the defensive shortstop replacement, is that, or like the defensive utility pinch runner guy?
Yeah, I mean, I would rather see Mead as a sort of just a bench bat, and then also he could get some starts at third base as well. Where if you want to switch things around and have Brandon Lau sit for a day and Paredes play second, and Walls is playing shortstop, and you have Basabe as the replacement or whatever you want to do with it. I just feel like I mean, obviously, Wall's coming back makes things interesting because Walls can play every position on the infield and play it better than almost anyone else on the team right now. But I feel like when you look at what Brujan and Mead offer, they're very different. So I understand it's not really it's not really apples to apples. It's really apples to oranges because they're not the same player at all. But I don't know. I just feel like sending down Mead's bat for Brujan's glove is not. I don't know if that's an equivalent trade as far as the value there. Maybe that's just my opinion, but I feel like Mead's bat is more valuable than Brujan's glove and base running. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's my opinion.
No, I mean that makes sense. So yeah, I mean with the lots of righties they're going to be facing because they just faced like an abnormal amount of lefties. It
Right.
definitely made sense to have meet up with the righties coming up. Like you'd be talking about benching Brandon Lau or Luke Rayleigh against a right-handed pitcher in favor of starting Mead against a right-handed pitcher, and that I mean, like Mead is going to be an everyday player someday, but he's not an everyday major league player right now. His swing decisions are good, but that's kind of the only thing that let him tread water while he was up. He definitely needs some work in a couple areas, but um, yeah, I mean, I think we could see Mead again. I just with Walls coming back, and if he's like fully good to go September 1st, I don't really think I don't think we'll see Mead again. Probably not. I mean, maybe if something crazy happens, like crazy good or crazy bad, like injury wise, we could see him, but um, it's hard to carry a guy who's an average at best defender right now. Like he's been fine. It's not really sustainable, I don't think. He's definitely like a long term like second base, occasional third base type guy. So it's not like you can pinch hit him and then it's like okay he can go play the field in a close game like Mead, I mean not Mead.
Yeah.
Brujan is definitely the better fielder, and he offers that more versatility. And you don't have to. And Brujan will not be pinch hitting for anybody. That's just, he's really similar to Basabe, like super similar skill sets. So I think the real contest on the roster is going to be him versus Basabe in a utility infielder or timeshare role with Walls, and that's going to be really interesting though because Basabe has been. He's been hot. He's been pretty much what we expected, but definitely the 400 BABIP isn't something I expect to continue, but he does have some value for sure. So it's going to be interesting to see whether they pick Basabe or Brujan for that, I guess, playoff role, if that's what the shortstop situation requires. Because if they send down Brujan again, they have to call him up and keep him up. Like he can't get optioned anymore, and like this is his last option year. So
yeah,
Basabe does have that flexibility where you can afford to send him down and not lose him. So
yeah,
I mean we'll see because they DFA'd Mejia, so I mean they're really not scared to cut ties with any players.
Yeah,
but I know Basabe has always been like a long-term project, so maybe they're gonna hold out hope and wait, but. Yeah, I'm just excited because they're so similar to Basabe and Brujan are really similar. So I'm excited to see who kind of emerges there.
Yeah, and I mean, with considering that this is kind of, I mean, you could maybe say this is Brujan's last ride with the major league team, and kind of say, hey, what do you got, kid? Like, can you show me something that you haven't shown me yet? And make a case for him maybe getting an extension or something in the offseason as opposed to him getting traded or released or whatever. I mean, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and give him a shot. I just kind of, I mean, you talk about not wanting me to be a late inning replacement, for a pitch hitter, then go out and play defense. And I see what you're saying there for sure. I think that the glove is fine. I think the arm needs some work. Like you can just tell the throws are a little labored from him, but the glove has been fine. He puts himself in good positions defensively. So I don't think that I actually would be okay with that personally, but it definitely wouldn't be as good as having, Brujan out there defensively. But I am the point you make about kind of letting it be a competition and seeing what they have. I think that's definitely what they are doing. And I'm intrigued to see. I'm willing to give, I've been I don't know if I've been a Brujan hater or maybe a Brujan unenthusiast a little bit, but if he proves me wrong, That's awesome. I would love for him to come up and bat 400 for the next 3 weeks and be amazing. That'd be awesome. And play amazing defense and steal 20 bases, whatever. That'd be awesome. I just haven't seen it yet. But if the Rays feel like it's worth giving him a chance, I trust them.
Right. No, I'm 100% on board with that. So, I mean, who would you go with right now? Like for that second shortstop timeshare infielder type of role that we're
Basabe,
talking
yeah.
about here.
If the
Basabe?
option, yeah, Basabe. And again, that's very prisoner of the moment of me to say that, but I don't know. I've just been really impressed. I mean, when you look at the circumstances that resulted in his call up and the role that was thrust upon him with really no I don't think they were ready. I don't think they were anticipating that. So having him put in that position, that short notice, and for him to perform as well as he has, given the circumstances, I don't know. That's really impressive to me. That shows that he's doing it the right way at the minor league level, to where his preparation is in a good place, where he's just in a good mindset. He was in a good mindset down there. He was ready down there for the opportunity, and when he got the opportunity, he's made the most of it. I think that's all you can ask from someone.
Yeah.
Because when you look at Brujan, I feel like there was chances where the similar situation happened where I don't think they were ready for it, and he got a chance to come up to the majors and get a shot, and he has not performed as well as Basabe has. And again, it's a very, very, very small sample size, so take that with a grain of salt. But I've been very, very impressed with how he's performed given the circumstances. And the competition he's played against hasn't been amazing. I mean, some of his stats are juiced because he hit a grand slam in the inning of a game that was a blowout, but still. I mean, that was a real pitcher that was pitching to him when he hit that grand slam. It wasn't a position player. So, I mean, I don't know. I've just been really impressed with Basabe. He would be my pick, no question, right now.
What does he do better than Vidal Brujan? I guess as like a skill set.
I mean, I think he hits better.
In his 11 major league games or his AAA like minor league career, like which one?
I mean, so again, I'm being very prisoner of the moment. I would say what I've seen from him in the major leagues has been better than what I've seen from Brujan in the major leagues. I think if you go to AAA, it's probably either almost exactly the same or Brujan maybe a little bit better. Brujan's been very good at AAA. The look on your face tells me probably Brujan's stats are better at AAA. So I'm willing to accept that. But I don't know. And this maybe goes into like, I do believe in like the X factor and like having it a little bit. And and maybe he's just hot right now and he'll cool off in a week and there's not really much of a distinction between the two. But right now I would choose Basabe because of what I've seen from him so far.
No, and that's definitely fair. I did just want to mention the AAA stats. Brujan career AAA in 985 plate appearances. So that's stable. I don't think that's gonna.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not gonna waver too much from this. 113 WRC plus. Basabe in AAA, he's got. Oh wait, I'm clicking the wrong thing. Sorry, Basabe in AAA. Let me go over to that. I typed in the wrong date. They're very similar, basically, but let me actually show that. He's had 420 plate appearances, 26. Yeah. He's had a 93 WRC plus, so he has been not as good. Less of a base running threat too. Brujan's been, slightly above average. Basabe slightly below average base runner at the AAA level. And there's one other thing. Basabe does grade out as a slightly worse fielder than Brujan, but it's mostly the versatility aspect there. It's not so much like Brujan does anything like crazy good. He's just more, you can, deploy him in more places. So yeah, Brujan 113 WRC plus AAA, Basabe 93. And then, I mean, they're very similar, like strikeout and walk rates similar. Brujan just walks a little bit more. Basabe strikes out a little less. And then obviously Brujan's the switch hitter. So
yeah. And I mean, that definitely very fair. And again, I am very aware that I'm being very prisoner of the moment and of what I've seen from him recently. I guess it's more of the fact that Brujan's been given, I don't know how many play appearances he's had at the major league level. It'd be a good question.
249.
249. I mean, that's a, that's not a full, that's not a full, that's not like a, that's not enough to say that, like, to make a definitive statement maybe about a player, but it's enough that you kind of like, I would say you could make at least a somewhat of a judgment on a player. Like, that's a lot of plate appearances. I mean, I think that's probably like a third of a season ish.
Yeah.
I don't know. You still like 600, you get like 600-ish plate appearances a season, something like that.
In like a
600.
full-time role, probably. I don't know if any, I mean, maybe like Yandy and Randy will hit that this year, but
Yeah. So maybe
most
it's more
others are,
like, maybe it's closer to like her third or half of a season,
yeah.
and it's obviously been spread out a lot because he's been up and down. But over those plate appearances, I just haven't really been very impressed with him at a major league level. And I've, I don't know what we're gonna get from Basabe going forward. I think for me, and again, I'm very much a person, I believe in the it factor and and I'm very impressed by people performing under difficult circumstances, and I think that this qualifies because of the nature of what happened and why he was called up and with the position he was put in to be the, like, if because if he comes up and he sucks, you don't have anybody else to put out there at shortstop. So
Yeah.
you're it, kid. That you're the only one we got right now. Like, go, because we don't have any other options right now. So to be put in that position and perform the way he has, I don't know. I'm very impressed by it. So right now, for me, it'd be Basabe.
No, it's definitely impressive for sure. So, I mean, I hope he can maintain his. Wait, what does he have so far? A 131 WRC plus. If he keeps doing that, I'd keep him up for sure, 100%. But we'll see, because like, he hasn't really hit like any of the stabilization points for statistics yet. So it's hard to say like what kind of hitter he is. Swing decision stuff kind of stabilizes around 50 plate appearances, like 75, like that kind of range.
Yeah.
And it is crazy how similar Basabe and Brujan have been in their major league careers so far. Swing rate is essentially the same. It's like a 5% difference. Contact rate, Brujan's running, or out. Contact rate is Brujan's like 1% lower. Zone contact, Basabe is a couple percent higher. Chase rate, Brujan is like 9% better, but everything else is like within 0.5%. So they're almost the same player. So I would kind of, based on their plate discipline, it looks like, they would eventually, like, Brujan would positively regress to some extent towards Basabe's stats that he's maintained, and then Basabe would regress like negatively towards Brujan. I think they're both like average major league hitters, so in a long term. But even Brujan hasn't really hit all of his, like, stabilization points yet either. So
is there any stats on there about how hard they're hitting the ball?
So I know hard hit rate is something that's like, that takes quite a while to stabilize. Let me see if I can just pull up
Just be
StatCast
curious.
stuff. Yeah, Basabe, it's really similar again. Basabe has definitely hit the ball harder, but he's got 28 batted balls versus 172.
Yeah.
So that's something that's gonna have to yeah, I mean, Basabe has just always been a ground ball guy too, though. Wait, what?
It'll have to develop. I mean, I would assume that.
Yeah, once we get like
250
250 batted balls, I think it'd be, that's when we can say Basabe hits the ball harder than Brujan, but we're maybe a year or two away from that.
Yeah, and I guess my other curiosity is with this decision, like, is Basabe going to remain kind of the starting shortstop until Walls gets back? I'd be curious to see. I mean, I would assume so. I think he's earned that, at least for now. But I'd be curious to see what the Rays think, and if they're going to keep him out there, kind of starting every day, and then maybe get spelled by Brujan occasionally. I'd just be curious to see what they do there.
I definitely think we're going to see Basabe continue to get like the bulk of that, and then, I mean, they're not like competing for the starting shortstop role. Maybe if Walls is like terrible or he like gets hurt again, but I think Walls, given his defense and versatility, and he's probably like, it's weird to say this, but he's the best hitter of the three, unfortunately, and he's like not even a great hitter. It's kind of Wall's job to lose, so it's more like Basabe is going to get his opportunity, like Brujan has gotten his multiple opportunities to kind of like fight for that backup utility infielder role, and then whatever happens end of September is whatever happens. So
Yeah, and I think where this gets interesting is there's not really a whole lot of time between now and the playoffs.
No,
So when you look at like who's the starting shortstop in October, I really don't know the answer to that question at this time. I think I don't even know that we can. I don't think that Kevin Cash knows that right now. I
no.
think that I think that's very interesting. It's not a situation we anticipated having to be looking forward to, sort of the interesting battle there. But that given when you look at the whole season, you're always surprised by things that you don't think you're going to be entertained by. And we have now a new thing to be entertained by, and that is who will the starting shortstop be come October. And I'm very intrigued to see how that develops.
Me too. And all of our listeners also have something to be entertained by, which is not a t-shirt, but it's actually us reminding you to share and vote for the Best of the Bay competition. So whatever graphic you had ready, Eureka, it should be hopefully the Best of the Bay one. It's fine if not. But yeah, just make sure you head over to creativeloafing.com. I think we still have like a couple days left to like a week. There we go. Couple days to a week left of voting. Every vote counts. We want to finish the job this year. It's our second year in a row being nominated for the best podcast in the entertainment section. So you don't have to vote for everything. There are like a billion categories. You can just head over to the entertainment section, best podcast, click on RBLR, and just enjoy the boat parade that we'll put on after we win.
Yes, I'll come down for the boat parade.
All right. That was probably like one of the. I mean, that wasn't our listener topic, but I feel like that was a better discussion than our actual listener topic. Like, not that it's bad, but like,
I think it's
know,
pretty straightforward.
Yeah. It was our Brujan Basabe Walls thing was much more nuanced because I mean, Pinto over Mejia. Why do you think that? I mean, that's what our listener topic is. That's what you all voted for. So thank you for voting. But Zach, why did the Rays pick Rene Pinto over Francisco Mejia for their backup catcher spot?
Because the Rays, I think Pinto has a chance to develop into something better than Mejia has shown he can be in the decent amount of. I mean, I think as we were talking about, Mejia's kind of stabilized. He kind of is what he is, and I think the Rays just made a decision that they feel like they would rather see what Pinto can become than see Mejia, because we've seen Mejia. We know what Mejia is. He's not really changing. It kind of is what he is.
Yeah.
I think he deserves like a backup catching job somewhere in Major League Baseball. But I think the Rays just decided, hey, we want to see Pinto, and we think he can. Is it Pinto or Pinto? I think it's Pinto.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's Pinto. I think they want to see what Pinto can do, and he's been pretty good so far. I've been, again, the backup catcher position is not one that you expect insane production out of. He needs a little bit of. They need to, like, in the offseason, he just needs to take bounced balls for like a couple months. That's what he needs to do. But that he'll learn. He'll be fine. He'll figure it out. And I just think they kind of decided we've seen what all we need to see from Mejia. Let's cut him loose. Maybe he'll get traction on another. There's enough time left in the season that he could go get traction on another organization and maybe play. So, they could have done this much later in the season and really kind of said, guess what? Your season's over. You're not going to play anymore. But now there's at least a chance if another organization wants to take a chance on him that they have there's time that they could do that and insert him into that role. And he definitely has value. He's a switch hitting catcher. There's some value there for sure. So I think that some organization will absolutely bring him in, and he'll be a part of some organization. So I think he'll do well there and land on his feet there. But I think they were just ready to see what Pinto can do, and they had seen enough of Mejia.
A couple like really weird, like interesting things that I found was first that Pinto is actually, like, out of all the players in the Rays organization, he is the longest tenured Ray, like dating back to his minor league time. Like, he was signed in like 2013 or 2014. So he has been a Ray longer than any other player in the organization currently.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool. He was signed like 16 years old. So all he knows is catching and catching the Rays way. And I think that has benefited him in his time as a catcher because the Rays have their pitching philosophy that's very specific. They want their guys to throw strikes and they want them to play to their strengths. So Pinto has kind of developed in that way.
Yeah.
And he's really, really good at not just, I mean, he's the best framer on the roster right now. He's better than Bethencourt. But he's really good at framing the pitches in the Rays way. So like he kind of already knows what the pitcher wants to do. Bethancourt he's been awesome. He's a great leader. He's a fantastic catcher. But Pinto is kind of different because he's already like on the same page as the pitchers that they've developed because they've all developed the same way. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I wanted to see like Taj's stats, like throwing to Pinto in AAA versus throwing to other catchers, because Taj is someone else who has only known pitching in the Rays system. He has not pitched anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like they got him out of high school, like when he was like 17 or 18. So really, really young. But I have a really good feeling that their pace is very quick, because they're on the same page constantly, and they probably have some really like great performances from Taj working together. So I have to look into that more. But the other interesting thing is the timing that they DFA'd Mejia. So do you know the day that you have to be on a 40-man roster to be eligible for the postseason?
Is it September 1st?
Yes. So it's like Thursday, August 31st at 11:59 p.m. If you are not on a team's 40-man roster, you cannot play in the postseason for them. So the Rays DFA'd Mejia while he probably could have been activated like a couple days later, because like they had 2 days off. Like they could have waited 2 days to activate him. They DFA'd him 2 days before they would have activated him if they would have kept him on the roster, if that makes sense. So he actually has enough time to get claimed by another team and added to their 40-man roster if it's a team that is playing in the postseason, which I think is like a really like that's pretty cool and admirable.
Yeah.
Like at face value, it's like he got activated off the IL early and then DFA'd, and that's a bad look. But when you dig a little bit deeper, it's like, oh, they wanted to give him an opportunity to play on a competitive team this season if a team wanted to take a chance on him. So that was kind of cool. I respect that a lot. I think that's cool.
Well, and I think it goes back to when you hear people talking about the Rays organization as an organization that cares about their players, that they would be thoughtful enough to do that and be like, we know we've made this, because they probably came to this decision a little while ago and they decided that this is what we're going to do. And they decided, they also, have given him rehab games to where like he's been able to kind of get back on his feet, because they could have done this when he was injured and just said, see ya kid, you're done. But instead they let him rehab and kind of get ready to come back, and then said, good luck. And I hope the team finds you. And they gave him that chance. So I 100% agree. They definitely did right by him. F7, thank you for your service. Salute. I mean, I wasn't surprised by it. I was a little surprised, but I wasn't shocked. I was kind of like, okay, that kind of makes sense. I can understand why they're doing that. There's also kind of just a lot of catchers in the Rays system right now that are probably it's going to start being a little bit of a log jam. So I'm not too surprised that they're kind of starting to get ahead of that roster crunch a little bit. I think that's also a part of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a backup catcher, like you kind of said, it's not, the most important spot on the roster, but it does let Pinto kind of set himself up for, taking over the job in the future. I know Bethancourt, he's under team control for through 2025. Pinto is under team control through at least 2029. So he's like, he's set for a while.
Yeah.
But the bat between Pinto and Bethancourt, it seems like there's a pretty big gap, but you gotta remember that Pinto's kind of like on the upswing, like he's on the development side of his career.
Yeah.
And career WRC plus, I know it's only 120 plate appearances for Pinto, so it's not like fully stable, but he's at a 69 WRC plus. Bethancourt's at a 72, so like that's slightly below average for a catcher. I think the average catcher WRC plus is around 80. This season, Pinto's at an 81 WRC plus. Bethancourt's at a 75. So like the bats are, all things considered, pretty much even. There's definitely more swing and miss in Pinto's game. There's a lot less chase. He's actually like, he makes really good swing decisions. His bat is just very slow. So he, struggles to catch up to things in the zone, and he'll swing and miss quite a bit. But defensively, I nobody really wanted to hear this last year, but I was like, I think Pinto's better than Mike Zunino, like defensively. And I think it was the episode where we had Ulysses on, and he was like, whoa, 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 whoa. But I was like, wait a little bit. So the stats defensively, first strikeout to walk rate split by catcher over the last 2 years with catching in the Rays catching at the major league level. Pinto has just under 300 innings, but he has the highest strikeout to walk rate with his pitchers at 4.31 strikeouts for every one walk. Bethancourt just under 1,000 innings. He's at just under 3.5 strikeouts per walk. So that kind of speaks to what I was saying earlier about Pinto being on the same page as, philosophically as Rays pitchers. And he's also just a good framer. So he gets gets those strikeouts a little bit more. Mejia's down around like a 3-to-1 ratio. So he's not really in the same, stratosphere as those guys. And then just the framing real quick, and then I'll take a break because I'm giving you like a wall of text here. But Pinto is really, really impressive, like around the best in the league, a 50.2 framing strike rate. Again, it's just under 300 innings, but that's kind of stuff stabilizes relatively quickly, and 300 innings is pretty, that's a pretty nice sample. Bethancourt's not far off at 47.6%, but that 3% swing per game. I mean, if your pitcher throws 100 pitches, I'm not saying all of them are going to be borderline, but like he's getting 3 more borderline pitches per game essentially, and that's a strikeout. Like you could steal an extra out that way, so that's really impressive. But yeah, Pinto is really good defensively, and he's kind of a little bit better than Bethancourt in a couple areas.
Yeah, I think what I take away from that is if the ball hits his glove, Pinto is better than Bethancourt. If the ball is not hitting his glove, there's a room for opportunity, because I feel like that's where my issue with Beth, at least at the moment right now for Pinto, is the pass balls have been kind of a problem. I mean, I definitely think, the point that you make about stealing a couple strikes per game, like if we want to really get into the weeds from like last night, we steal a couple strikes here, and like if you steal that strike back on Stanton and he doesn't hit that double and drive in a couple more runs, it might be a different game, because the next at bat was a fly out, and so you would have been out of that inning with only 1 run. That's a very different game if it's 3-1 coming out of that inning instead of 5-1. It's a totally different ball game. So your point about him being able to frame a little bit better, and maybe he understands maybe he knows that ball is going to kind of, because the way that Bethancourt received it, he kind of went away from the zone the way he received it. Maybe Pinto knows that, hey, that ball is going to come this way. I'm going to catch it with my glove and kind of bring it this way to present that ball a little bit better and maybe steal that strike. Who knows? Who knows? So there's definitely a case to be made for Pinto being very valuable from that perspective. I just think he needs to work a little bit on his, blocking. He's trying to glove the balls when they're bouncing in, as opposed to blocking them with his body. I've seen him do it a couple times now where he's kind of swiping at it. And I think that's just because, again, when you get to the major league level, these guys are they have the best stuff. And when you have really good stuff, if it misfires, it's going to be kind of aggressive. And you see that from Glaz now. You see it from some of our other guys who have really sharp breaking balls. And that's just something that just is an area of opportunity. And I think that's not going to be a long-term problem for him. He'll figure it out and get it fixed. But at the moment, I think that's my only concern with Pinto. It just needs to get a little bit better at, preventing pass balls.
Well, who has a better blocks above average per game among the 3 Rays catchers we've seen this year?
I have no idea.
I mean, it is Bethancourt, but it's by 0.02. So they've been the same value essentially. Mejia has actually been like in the same area too. They're all close to like Bethancourt, Mejia, and Pinto have all been like 45 to like 47th percentile. So they're all slightly below league average in like blocks above average per game, but they're all about the same. Bethancourt really, maybe he's just like a little bit more experienced, so he kind of knows when to just bite the bullet and don't try to frame it, just get down and smother the ball. But it's the same number essentially. It's like if somebody has like a 255 batting average versus like a 259, like 259 is better, but like actually that's bigger than a gap. It would be like a 255 to 258 batting average. Like it's the same essentially. So I mean, it might look worse because it's like, oh, Pinto's the young guy, he doesn't know how to catch yet, but he's been catching longer than Bethancourt, honestly, because Bethancourt he's at his position player time. He's had his two-way player time. All Pinto knows is catching, and he's been doing it longer than he's been playing in the Rays organization longer than anybody else. I think the blocks will get better, but right now it's the same number essentially. Same with the pop time as well. Bethancourt, fantastic, like elite 1.88 pop time over the last 2 years. Pinto, 1.89. It's the same thing. Mejia actually was at 1.95. I was kind of surprised because I thought Mejia was better than that, but they're all three are above league average, but Pinto and Bethancourt are top 5 throwing catchers in baseball. They're actually 4 and 5.
Yeah, and I mean, actually, as you were saying that, I do feel like that's maybe an issue that the Rays catching has had all season long. Actually, it's been pass balls. I actually think there's been you just said it. It's a little bit lower. So I don't know if that's and it's impossible to know if that's if that's the Rays catching needs to get better, or if the Rays pitching is just so the nature of the insane breaking balls, things that these players have results in some of that. More be interesting to take a look at that and see how maybe like Stuff Plus would relate to.
I'm doing that right now.
I think that that's be interesting to see if those things correlate. If the teams that have the highest Stuff Plus also have the lowest like pass ball rate. I have no idea, but that'd be an interesting stat to look at.
Yeah, the Rays have the second highest Stuff Plus as a team in the majors this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the highest. Well, no, I mean, it's Stuff Plus. I think it's a good rule of thumb, but the more I keep like digging into like what makes a pitcher good, I'm like, as long as you have like one pitch that's like slightly above average Stuff Plus, you have a chance to be a really good pitcher. Pitching is so cool because nobody understands it and nobody will understand it completely.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. But yeah, the Rays do tend to throw like pretty nasty stuff. And they know what they're doing with it. I just think it seems like the team philosophy is like try to steal a strike, because sometimes the potential. So they always talk about the cost of a strike, or the cost of a strike versus the cost of a ball. And I think the cost of a ball is worth more to them than a potential base runner advancing. I think. I hope that's not the case when there's a runner at third, but with like a runner on first, if you can steal a strike and get the count to like 1-2 instead of 2-1, maybe that's worth it to them. And it kind of seems like it now that I think of it, because like I heard the interview with Kyle
would
Springer
say,
a while ago.
Watching a lot of Rays baseball, I would say that's 100%. One of the criticisms of the Rays over the years has been that they don't really play small ball. Or they don't tend. That's not that's organizationally they don't do that, and I think that also sort of extends to the defensive side of things. They don't play like prevent defense exactly the way that some teams would, where like they're gonna like just make sure no matter what, you don't let that runner advance or whatever, and all sort of those sorts of things. And maybe that's just kind of organizationally they would rather focus on something that is going to be will grade out positively over over more samples sizes than just a situation where a relatively uncommon situation where you're in a close game in late innings where you've got a runner on. That's a very specific scenario that organizationally you'd want to base your philosophy around, as opposed to every other situation where you would probably rather steal that strike. So I think it's just kind of the way the Rays do things, and the Rays are definitely a team that like they're going to stick to their guns because they're pretty confident that what they're doing is right, and they usually are right. So can't really blame them for that.
No, definitely. Yeah, I mean that's kind of all I've got on Pinto over Mejia. It makes sense, and I think maybe by the end of the next year we might have Pinto as like getting more than 50% of the share at catcher with whoever he's paired with, possibly. I think Bethancourt's going to be around to stay at least through the length of his team control, but because he's such a great leader and he does provide a lot of value at catcher, but I think Pinto he's the long-term guy, because he was built for this. Like he was built to be the Rays catcher. And I'm just excited to see him kind of take on that role, because it's been a long time coming and it's been very like slow, but the flashes that he's shown, like especially defensively and even with the bat, like he's got like there's like, it's kind of like a fake stat, but not really. This is the last I'll bring up, then we can move on because we've been going on forever. But he has an extra hard hit rate. So like balls that are hit 100 miles an hour or greater, he does that a lot. Like I don't have the exact numbers here because they don't get updated very frequently on the source that I'm using for some AAA data, but he's like among the league leaders in extra hard hit rate. It's like if Yandy Diaz played catcher, essentially. Like so many, I mean, a lot of them are ground balls, but lots of really, really hard contact. So it's pretty exciting for Pinto because he's got like Mike Zunino bat potential, but an even better glove.
Yeah,
arm.
I mean that would be, if he could become Mike Zeno with a better glove, I'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah,
I think the Rays would too.
Absolutely. But I have no segue for this. I was gonna try to make it work. I was gonna say we don't have a glove of the week, but we do have bats of the week. So that's terrible. But who is your bat of the week? Let's move on.
My bat of the week is also what we were previously talking about, for also his glove is a significant part of that, even though it's not glove of the week. The way that he has come in and filled in at a very glove heavy position and been so excellent offensively has been, as I talked about a lot earlier, very impressive to me. It's Basabe. He's second on the team in the last week with WRC plus of 255, which is, I mean, that's awesome. And I mean, a lot of it, he's had a couple really, really good games. So that's definitely helped. But again, I've just been, I can't say enough about how impressed I've been about him being able to come in a difficult position and produce. So I'm just very impressed with him. Slavis Basabe,
Absolutely.
I think is his first name.
Yeah. I almost picked him. I did rock, paper, scissors with myself, and ended up picking ISAAC Paredes as my bat of the week, but it's a coin flip. Like, just because of the context surrounding Basabe's situation, it's really impressive. But Paredes, like, every time I remember that I picked him up on fantasy waivers for free, and he's just like, RBIs are definitely a team stat, but there are guys who are good at getting RBIs because they are power hitters, and he's that guy. He doesn't expand the zone. He just drives the ball pull side every time, deal with it. He does it. He doesn't care. And he led the team in F4 and he's a good defender. He had that nice little game at shortstop, barely had any playing time there because they put him in that matchup for a reason, but it's fine. He's a good fielder. It's nice to have him on the team. Great bat. I really, really, really think he's going to be the next to get a long-term contract. So
he better.
Yeah. I mean, but really I kept picking rock. So I always pick rock, and I was like rock, paper, scissors, and then I kept picking rock. So I just went with Paredes.
Yep.
But Basabe was, I love the contact rate in the zone. It's refreshing. It's refreshing.
Yep. And I mean, he's on 30-100 watch for the season. I mean, he's got 80 RBIs, 26 home runs on the season. He could get there. He could definitely get there. A couple more really good games, he could get there. That would be really fun. I would love to have have another 30-100 guy.
I thought you were talking about Basabe for a second, and I'm like, no. 30 games and 100 plate appearances maybe, but we'll see. But no, I really see like both of them part of the team's long-term plans, just because they offer some unique looks with their bat paths, and that's something that's really interesting. We did see Jonathan Aranda pinch hit he pinch hit against a lefty in the Angels series. Was it the Angels series? No, it was the Rockies series.
It was the Rockies
series. He pinch hit. Yeah, the game that Littell started, he pinch hit like late in the game, lefty on lefty for I think it was Bethancourt possibly, or Pinto, I'm not sure. But like the matchup would be like, oh yeah, you should always go with the righty there, but the bat path matchup is really different, and we don't have public data on that, but that was the reason for that pinch hit. So it's really cool to see that, because like that means that Basabe he has like a guaranteed role because his path is really, really flat compared to some other guys.
Yeah.
And that can play in certain, it's just the potential there for the mixing and matching is really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So I want him on that postseason roster because
100%.
That's when we get the really, really good matchups. But anyways, we can go to the arm of the week. Who was your pitcher this week?
My pitcher of the week was Crazy Eyes Pete Fairbanks. He's been locked down. The last couple times we've seen him out there, he's been absolutely excellent. Has kind of, there was a little bit where I think him and another really good pitcher we may be talking about later, hint, hint, have had a little bit of a rough patch here and there, but he has really come back into form, and he's been really, really excellent. And I've been really impressed with what he's kind of been able to do coming back from weird injury stuff. And he has a finger thing, and it's like, what is going on? He can't pitch in the cold. This is weird, but he's been excellent. He's been the closer. He had a really good week this week, and he's such a valuable arm for us going into the postseason to have him available, and performing at the level that we want him to perform at. So he's my arm of the week.
Yeah, he's as locked down as anybody in the league. And honestly, he might be like, I mean, I don't necessarily want this to be true for the reasons that it's happening, but like he might be the best closer in the AL now.
Yeah, he might be.
Like, I mean, or at least the AL East. I don't
Yeah.
really know what else is going on. I know he doesn't have as many saves as other guys, but it's a counting stat. Like,
Yeah,
I would trust Fairbanks over a lot of other teams' closers. So
Yep.
yeah. Fairbanks, he was awesome, and my arm of the week was also pretty good. Again, this was a coin flip for me, but I just went with Jason Adam. He only pitched in one game, but he did that thing that he did against the Dodgers earlier where he just took over the game. It wasn't really out of necessity this time like it was last time when Fairbanks felt like his hip tightened up or whatever.
Yeah.
But Adam just went out, faced 6 batters, struck out 5.
Was awesome.
He just completely took over that game, gave the Rays a chance to win, and they did thanks to Josh Lowe. I mean, that 2-inning role is not what the Rays really want him in, especially like against the Rockies and the regular season where it's like this isn't that important. But now that he's done it twice, he's kind of proven that he has that in his back pocket if they really, really need it. So I hope they don't have to do that in the postseason, but if they need to, you could count on Jason Adam, where if he's really feeling it and he's efficient, he could go out there and just take over a game for 2 innings. And that's huge because games in the postseason they're not shorter because every game is 9 innings, but every out means a little bit more. And if he can go and like steal 6 outs in like a 15-minute window, that's awesome.
Yeah. And you never know when you may need that. And like you say, just having the ability to have that in your back pocket.
Yeah.
We've talked about that with Littell too, about how like the Rays just have a couple guys, whether it's Adam, Littell, Armstrong, they just have these guys who have these multiple, roles they can fill. And that's just going to be so valuable for them coming into the postseason. Yeah,
absolutely. We already talked about some injury stuff. We know Walls and Kelly are in line to come back September 1st. Margot, possibly late September. He said he's feeling great, which is cool because if I got my elbow cut open and they removed a bunch of stuff, I probably wouldn't be feeling great. But yeah. So anything else before we wrap up here?
Yeah, the only other thing from the week that really was exciting to me was, as we were talking about Littell a second ago, our good friend Pat has written a really fun article about Zach Littell. Would really recommend you guys go check it out. I think we posted it on RBLR Rays. Go check that out. It's a really fun article about a really fun player who we've had a lot of fun talking about on the show, and I think we're going to talk about him more. So go read that article.
Yeah, he's been one of my favorite pitchers. I just love how they experiment like in real time, and the players just go with it. Like, it's really fun. So
yeah. By the way, he also looks like Yukon Cornelius. Just want to let everybody know that.
Nice. I don't know who that is, but I'll take your word for it.
Have you seen the old Rudolph, the Rudolph movie?
Oh, wait, yeah. Okay.
I'm talking about?
I didn't know he had a name.
Okay. Yep, that is his name. His name is Yukon Cornelius. And
as soon as you said the old Rudolph, I knew that immediately. Wow.
Yep. The next time you see him and you think about Yukon Cornelius, and you'll be like, they look exactly the same.
All right. Well, maybe we could see if we can get Rudolph on the show to talk about that someday. So
that would be great.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Make sure you voted for the Best of the Bay stuff. Like, subscribe, share, especially on YouTube. Comment, share this with other people. This was a great episode. Always appreciate your perspective, Zach. It's nice that we can both do all this. So yeah. Thank you everybody for listening. Enjoy the game today, and go Rays.
Rays up.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, Please remember to like and subscribe.